I will be splitting this into 2 videos, one for each semester. And for each subject, it will be divided as discussed by the overview of the subject, the class activities, the references and sources that I used throughout the year, and of course my own tips and advice. And for the last part, a reveal of my own grades for my subjects in first year because I like to embarrass myself. So before we start, a quick disclaimer, I'm not going to be explaining anything about guidelines in general, but more on my own experiences. And of course, with the curriculum I had last year, it could be completely different from your experience. So take all of this with a grain of salt. I will also not be giving out any reviewers or PPTs or anything like that. And these are just things that I wish I knew or things that I didn't expect at all to happen when I transferred into college, especially in nursing. Also, I will only be talking about the major subjects and I will not be putting a lot of emphasis on the minor subjects. So if you're new here, my name is Kai and I'm an incoming second year nursing student in XU ADC. So without further ado, we have 11 subjects total in the first semester, 2 of which are major subjects. So let's first delve right into the major Theoretical Foundations in Nursing, or TFN for short. So for TFN, people expect this to be the lightest or the easiest subject as compared to anaphy or anatomy and physiology. But in my experience, I actually struggled the most in TFN since it focused more on reading. There's a lot of theorists and proponents related to these concepts that they explain. Now don't get me wrong, there is a lot of reading. Trust me, a lot of reading in anaphy, but it more so focuses on their history, their background, their education, their job, their second job, their third job, where they graduated, what college did they graduate in, did they have a master's degree, did they have a PhD, where did they have their realization that needed them to create this certain theory, even their books and the titles and when they were published. Those things are the type of questions that are in the exam. So it's these little things that you have to remember for like 8 of them. Let's say, I think during my prelims, I had about 7 or 8 of them just in prelims alone. So it can be difficult to memorize all of the birthdays, the different degrees that they had, and where they studied, where they worked, and where they did most of their contributions. So good luck to you in that. There's a lot of reading, and I suggest that you don't skip any of it. But of course, this is all for a good reason. We have to be aware of the history, how nursing came to be, how it became a actual profession rather than something that is voluntary. So we have to be familiar with the people that made nursing into what it is today. So don't complain about that. For class activities, we did a lot of reporting. So each person in our class would be assigned a certain theorist or person that is very notable in the nursing world. And so we have to report them, give their entire background, their history, all of their experience, their achievements, and all things like that. And after we report it, we would have to take a quiz after, which is usually 20 items, but it can differ based on your instructor. Sometimes it can be the next meeting, some of them before the meeting or after the meeting. So just be prepared always and study well. So the book that we used, or at least is recommended, is this book, which is by Martha Rael Alligood. But there are different books that a lot of my blockmates also use that is not necessarily that book, but it also works very well because there are actually some proponents that are not found in the book but are found in other sources. So feel free to always do your research because this subject requires a lot of research. So don't just stay limited to the book as well. So for my advice, I would say always study advanced even if you are not the one assigned to the topic that day, because as I said earlier, maybe for 1 week, maybe 2 or 3 people will be presenting their assigned proponent, meaning you're only going to be able to present once. And for the rest of it, you're gonna have to listen to your other blockmates do their report. I would say before listening to their report, you have to already be familiar with what their report is about, like the person that they're about to be presenting or discussing, the theory and everything like that, because you have to always be prepared with things like that. If you have a hard time memorizing things like dates, and if you have a hard time understanding certain concepts like I did, don't even get me started with energy fields and all that kind of stuff. You have to be able to read in advance, or at least be familiar and understand what their theory is about, because a lot of the questions will be very situational, and that includes also the major exams like midterms and the final exams. Speaking of exams, try to not rely too much on your PPTs or any reviewers. It's very tempting to just summarize everything into one page, but trust me, a lot of things from the book are going to come out, which is why I really recommend the book so much, because there are a lot of things that I just randomly read through the paragraphs of the book and they would come out in the exam. So try to not summarize or shorten everything, because all of that information, you're gonna need that. And don't mindlessly read it either, where all of the information just goes through your brain. So even if you're not actively memorizing every single word in the book, still read every single word in the book, because you have no idea when that question comes up in the exam and you're like, wait, I think I read this before in the book. So that happened to me so many times in this subject and it saved me. So I suggest that you do the same as well. Mnemonics saved my life, especially in things like memorizing dates and birthdays, because I'm really bad at that. You have to be able to find a trick somehow to get yourself to memorize these years and months and dates. So that's all for me for TFN. The next subject is technically a minor subject rather than a major, but is notorious for how difficult it is. And a lot of my freshies have also asked me the difficulty of this subject, and I get you guys, biochemistry. This subject is probably one of the biggest reasons why a good amount of people decide to shift. It's when they encounter this subject, especially when you have a weakness in chemistry like me. Biochemistry is divided into two, which is the lecture and laboratory, but I think to my memory, lecture is a lot more valuable in terms of units in comparison to lab. So for lecture, it actually introduces us first with organic chemistry. So to be honest, biochemistry is actually a lot easier than you think. It's the beginning of it where it starts with organic chemistry that makes it so dang hard. Unless you're good at functional groups and nomenclature or the IUPAC, structural formulas, those things are probably easy for you if you already are familiar with those topics. If you're not, then yay, me too. So in my opinion, I think that part was the most difficult part for me, and same goes with the rest of my blockmates as well, as I've noticed. But if you're good at things like biochem and already have a background on things like the Krebs cycle, glycolysis, the electron transport chain, biochemistry, that part is going to be a breeze for you, which is what allowed me to redeem myself at the very end. So I don't have the book on me right now. It is called The Introduction to General Organic and Biochemistry 12 edition by Bettelheim et al., which I heavily encourage you to buy, which I think a lot of seniors have it for sale, so you freshies can buy it from them for cheaper if you would like, because I don't think there is a PDF available for this. And I really encourage you to read this through before classes or even after classes, because it cannot be understood by PPTs alone. You need all the sources possible. The only downside of the book was that it was black and white, which kind of threw me off a little since I couldn't really properly see the illustrations they were trying to show me, and it made me really sleepy. But trust me, it's worth it when you understand. Depending on your teacher, they're gonna have different tasks, but I think for all blocks, regardless of the teacher, there is no big project that you're able to bow it your grades with. So do your best in all of the quizzes and assignments if they give assignments, because most of the time they don't. There's no performance test or big project that's gonna save it. So for the prelim to midterm part of chemistry, I would of course recommend my organic chemistry teacher for all things related to organic chemistry, and it made my life just a little bit easier. So for biochemistry related topics, I would always recommend watching Cognito, which is a YouTube channel and has a bunch of animations related to biochemistry, which I think would be useful for the later part in the semifinals to finals era. It helped me so much, especially with the topics like protein synthesis, DNA synthesis, all things synthesis. It really helped me visualize and understand what was going on. You have to be able to understand, because it will come out in the exam. They're gonna ask you what type of enzyme does XYZ, and you're gonna have no idea. For me, books aren't enough. I'm not able able to see the actual process very well. So if you're especially a very visual person, please watch those two. And so for my advice, I think the biggest mistake I ever made in the first year of nursing was this subject, biochem, because I treated it like a minor subject, even though it is a minor subject. Think about it, it is actually a prerequisite to things like microbiology and parasitology, to even pharma. The worst thing I did was put it off like any other minor subject. Biochem is sort of like a major as well. Its demands, at least, are kind of like a major. And I was too lax about it, I guess. I always thought to myself that this will be fine because it's just 50% passing. Well, guess what? I almost didn't pass. So don't try to have that mindset. So always reach for a high mark no matter the subject, because if you're going to aim very low, you don't want to risk getting the lower end of that goal. I would get such little marks. I think I even had a 9 out of 25 or something back in my midterm quizzes, and I was so ashamed of it, I didn't even tell a single soul about it. In my midterm exam, I got like a 40 out of 75, which is barely passing. Don't end up like me and just be so lax about this subject, because it really can just creep up on you. But hey, I passed at the very end of the day, and I'll be revealing that grade later. I had to lock in at finals. I missed intrams just to bawi my grades in chem, and it really was all worth it. Now we move on to laboratory chem. So it is much lighter, as I've mentioned earlier, but there are just 3 things that you have to worry about, and that's the lab reports, the experiments themselves, and moving exams. For me, we only had 1 moving exam the entire semester, but still it is very nerve-wracking, and I would just suggest just getting it over with. Just go first if you would want, and just don't overthink it, because if you get so anxious, you're gonna have a mental block. The good thing about this is that you're working with your blockmates, and sometimes you're also mixed with another block, and it's more focused on the execution part rather than the memorization and processes part like lecture. All of the experiments that we did in laboratory was very aligned with what we had learned in lecture. So if we learned about functional groups in lecture, we would have experiments that are related to these functional groups in our experiments. Oh, and the lab reports will have to be submitted at the end of the session. So it has to be submitted within the day. So what I can suggest is you have to be familiar with your experiment in advance. Don't try to surprise yourself by opening the experiment instructions the moment that the experiment is about to start. Try to just get a grasp of it an hour, a day before the experiment, even better. Just be familiar with it so that you don't mess up when you're actually executing it. So all of the experiments and instructions will be provided to you, since it'll be a book produced by XU themselves. But all I can tell you is just understand what you're doing. During moving exams and even written exams, a lot of those things will go back to what you did. Please also do your schematic diagrams in advance. Please don't copy from other people, because in that sense, you're probably not processing the information. You're just copying it letter word for word from another person, so you're not really understanding anything. What's the point of a schematic diagram then? Just do your schematic diagram in advance. It probably takes like 20 minutes. Try to not copy off of anyone else. And also don't skip post-lab discussions. And you're not gonna know what I mean until you actually get there. A lot of people have the temptation to skip. A lot of people have skipped. Just don't do it, because all of the things that are discussed on that day is gonna come out in the exam. Be there, be present, and take notes. And also, please don't cheat. There's been a lot of things that have went on during chemistry, both lecture and lab. Just don't cheat, because chances are you're gonna get caught, and it's not a good look for you. So last is anaphy, or anatomy and physiology. Probably the most demanding subject, and for a good reason. I think we did almost all the body systems except for the lymphatic system and the respiratory, I think. It's first going to cover basic terms like distal, proximal, what are the kinds of plane, sagittal, transverse, all that kind of stuff. It's really simple at the very beginning, but believe me when I say it gets really intense in a very short amount of time. So technically we do have lecture and lab subjects, but in lab we usually just did worksheets, and try to not not cram it because teachers hate that. Be as presentable as you can. During the first half of anaphy, we were also grouped and we had to do our own reports based on whatever body system was assigned to us. And from what I remember, I did the skeletal system, which I don't remember if it's in any of my vlogs, but I do remember vlogging that part where I was working on our PowerPoint presentation. So you have to be able to speak in front of the class, but you're going to be accompanied by your group mates. There's going to be a lot of quizzes in anaphy, and trust me, they are very difficult, but they are doable as long as you read the book. You can't do anything else around it. No ChatGPT, no reviewers, no summaries can help you when it comes to anaphy. This is also the book that we use. It's quite heavy. It just says 2025 release. I don't know what edition this is. If you saw any of my vlogs, you're gonna see how colorful this book is because of how much I've been highlighting it. See, look at that. It doesn't look as colorful on camera, but trust me, it is. I was top 1 during midterms and top 2 as well in the lab, but I don't feel like showing my name, so this is all you're going to get. During the time I was taking anaphy classes, a lot of my friends and even blockmates would ask me, what is my secret? How did I study so well? How do you get good marks all the time? Like, I had some kind of study hack. But the thing is, all I did was read. During the final exam, all I did was read the book again and again and again. And I don't mean skim through it and just look at the emboldened letters, because when I tell you, most of the things that will come out are those tiny little terms that are there in a random paragraph. So I would recall things on my own after reading a whole section. So let's say section 4.1 talks about the functions of the heart. I would read that out and then I would close that and try to recite as much as I remember from it, like verbally. I would be talking to myself. The thing about nursing is that you have to be comfortable with talking to yourself, because for me, the best way you're able to learn is by teaching somebody else or explaining it to somebody else. So what I would do is look into each section, read it, talk to my wall over there, and recite what I just learned. Then I would go back, look into the section I just read, and see if I mentioned everything important that was in that text. And if I didn't, I would do it again, no matter how long it takes. If you don't understand it, Google it. When I did any major exam, I would look into these terms and be like, I don't know what this means. So instead of skipping through it, I'm going to Google it and understand what it means. Once I understand it, somehow it always ends up in the exam. And I'm just lucky and grateful that I took the initiative to search what it was. And also, don't miss any tables that are in that book or whatever book that you're going to use for anaphy. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tables, visualizations, and those really help. Don't ignore it. Don't just read the text. And there was even this one question I remember that I didn't know the answer to, but it was only because I accidentally skipped that table and I didn't know what the answer was because it wasn't even mentioned in the text. It was only found on the table. It is completely inevitable that you're going to see on that exam paper something you've never heard of. And that's totally fine because you're supposed to be able to encounter things that are unfamiliar to you. So now that we have reached the end of my TED Talk pertaining to nursing major subjects, I will now be revealing my grades for each of the subject I just spoke about. So for TFN, my midterm grade was this, and my final grade was that. Yay! Just don't overlook TFN and you'll be fine. And I did pretty well in the exams as well. So the exams matter so much if you want to bring up that grade. Next is chemistry, the one you've been waiting for. I know everybody dreads this subject, but anyway, here is my midterm grade. Love to see it. Barely passing. And my final grade was this. Yes, I did a really good trying to redeem myself, and it's mostly because of my final exam. I missed intramurals. I studied 3 days straight of just chemistry. I remember on the day of the final exam, I woke up at 2 a.m. and I studied for 1 hour. I fell back asleep because I was too sleepy. I woke up at 4 a.m. and I studied again until 6, and then I got ready for school and then left. I'm not saying you should be doing an all-nighter because it is not healthy for you. You won't remember anything. I was just desperate and pure adrenaline fueled me. And if you're wondering, this is what my score was in that final exam. So And I'm not even mad that it's not an A-. And finally, for anaphy, this is my midterm grade, and this was my final grade. Yay! So yeah, I think that's it for today. I'll be making a part 2 of this for second semester if this video is helpful to you. So if you like this video, please consider leaving a comment, or if you have any questions that I didn't get to answer in this video, you can of course ask me. I hope you have a great journey in your first year, and I'm always going to be wishing you luck. Know that anything is possible. Bye-bye.